Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube page. So this week what I'm going to be sharing about is actually inspired from a text message that I had with a friend a couple days ago. And so a little bit backstory of what we were texting was about graduation. This friend actually texted me saying that their graduation changed to online. And what's so interesting was the phrase she texted at the end, and it said, "But Abby, this is not how I pictured it." And so the title of my message also today is Not How I Pictured It. And when I was just sitting there trying to text back to her, those lines just simply just jumped out of the text, and it was just starting to speak to me even as I was in that moment trying to apply for a job, and in that moment trying to secure something for my future. And maybe you're also watching this video and somehow you're like, life has not been going like how I pictured it to be. It's so interesting because we mostly, like, even when we think about our graduation, or when we think about an ideal business that we're joining, or when we think about our job that one day we'll join, or the person we marry, it's like we paint a picture in our minds, right? It's like we have this imagination in our minds and we're just like, okay, this is how it's gonna look like. But really, when God is really trying to show us and tell us that you have this picture in your mind, but the plan I have for you is different, right? I mean, I feel like that's what God has been really teaching us and showing us all 2020. And as this week also, while I was just spending time in prayer, there was this specific verse that God spoke to me. And I know this verse is pretty common and you probably have heard it so many times again. It's a verse that's found in Jeremiah 29:11 that says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." I love this verse, y'all. Like, whenever I read it, each time I read it, even though I've read it so many times, it's like it just refreshes me and it renews my mind. It just gives me more hope. It motivates me and encourages me. And I know you're encouraged by it as well. And to really go back a little bit, to really explain the context of this verse, this verse was written by Jeremiah to the people that were on exile. And so these were, the people who were traveling from Jerusalem to Babylon because of the king Nebuchadnezzar. And these people were on exile. That means that they were hungry. There were times where they wanted to give up. They left their hometown, which is Jerusalem. So these were people that were just frustrated and people that were just like complaining. And that was a long time ago, right? But when we bring this context right now in this season of our lives, there were 3 points that God really spoke to me and explained to me through this verse. And the first one is being content. In case you know that this verse, in this Jeremiah 29 verse 11 verse, it's saying, "I know the plans I have for you." That is God telling the Israelites and us today that you don't know the plans for your future, but God is telling us, "I know the plan I have for your future." And that is a plan that is good. That is a plan to prosper you. And it's a plan not to harm you. It's a plan to give you a hope in the future. And so in a way, it's God assuring to us and letting us know and telling us that we need to be content. But where does that contentment comes from? It comes from knowing that God is in control. Because life is not always how we pictured it, right? Like, just like that friend just texted me saying, "Abby, this is not how I pictured my graduation date to be." Because I bet she pictured in her mind was, wearing her gown and walking up that stage while her parents are clapping and, people taking her pictures, right? She was not expecting, or she didn't picture it just like sitting in a table and just having her computer in front of her and just attending online, right? But see, this is what the Lord is also saying to us today, that He has a plan for us, but that plan is somehow different from how we've pictured it to be. And I love how also, like in Philippians 4, there's a verse where Paul is saying, "I have learned to be content in whatever circumstance." And in this verse, Paul is saying, "Okay, God, I know that you have a good plan for my life. I know that your plans for me is for good." And so this is when, Paul is saying, "I have learned to be content." And I really pray, and also as you're watching this video, to just really just think through, have you been content in your life right now, in the things that the Lord has given you? It might be your job, it might be your family, it might be, the finance that you have, it might be the season that you're in. Are you grateful for that? Are you content in that? Just really ask yourself those questions. And the second one is embracing the season. That's what, I really received from the Holy Spirit in this verse in Jeremiah 29. It's just embracing the season, because I don't know the plans that the Lord has for me, right? And so in each season that the Lord takes me in, I need to be content, and then I need to embrace the season. That means, to take it and say, okay, God, even though I'm in this season of my life right now, I will be content, and also I will trust your plans for my life. And back again, when we talk about the context of, these Israelites, we see them, right, traveling. It means that was a specific season that they were passing through. See, mind you, in that same context, God is telling these Israelites, saying, hey, like, build houses, marry, plant a garden. And what he's telling them is, even though you're on exile right now, just see that season as something that I am working towards your life. And what's so beautiful is that, in that same context, God, gave promise to the Israelites, saying that he's going to bring them back to their promised land. What we can understand through that verse, and also for our lives today, is that being content in that season, and knowing that, since God has a plan in the future for us, whatever season it is, whatever moment that is that we're passing through, that he knows and he has a plan for that. And maybe you're watching this video and somehow maybe you're single. And I mean, I could relate to that. And I know that, so many people, in their season of singleness, for example, just complain. And they're just like, okay, God, where is my man? It's like, who am I going to get married to? Like, all my friends are getting married. Everyone is engaged. Everyone is in a relationship except for me. When God is telling you, hey, I know the plans I have for you. And they are plans for good and not for harm. But so many times we get distracted with, seeing other people's life, or, seeing other people's highlights, and we compare it with our lowlights. Or maybe seeing other people's seasons. But, they're just in a different season than you are. And so really embracing the season and knowing that God has a good plan and a perfect will in that season that we're in. And the third point is waiting and trusting God's promise. And this is so crucial and important because, as we see, these Israelites, they have no other option but to wait on God, right? They're traveling from Jerusalem to Babylon. They're on exile, and they have this King Nebuchadnezzar. And so the only thing they can do is really trust God and also wait. And when we bring that again to our context today, we don't have any option, right, than other to just trust God and also wait. And I love how in Psalms 27 it says, wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. There is so much beauty in waiting on God, because it's in that season of waiting that God really shapes a person, that he molds them, that he works on them, that he builds their character. And I know, a lot of people don't like waiting. I mean, of course, we live in a time where we just want everything quick and fast, right? But there is so much beauty in trusting on God's plan, because he knows the plan he has for us, and waiting on it. And honestly speaking, it's not easy. And I mean, this has to be the season of my life where I'm like stretching a lot, because okay, I'm wrapping up my college years, and I'm trying to think about, okay, where am I going to move after graduation? Where is the place that God has prepared for me? It's been a lot of just place of just like waiting on God, even like applying for a job and just waiting. And so God has been really teaching me about waiting and just trusting his plan, and knowing that what he has for me is amazing. What he has for my life is something more than I could ever plan or imagine. So as you're watching this video also, I just want you to be encouraged, and maybe, things is not going according how you painted it to be, right? Maybe, you're in a relationship right now and somehow you're just like, this is not how I painted this relationship to be. Or maybe, you're single like I am, and somehow you're just like, God, when is this person coming into my life? But God is telling you, saying that I know the plans that I have for your life. And you don't have to rush. You just have to wait. You just have to trust. And you just have to be content and embrace the season that you're in right now. I hope you're encouraged by this. And thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like it. Hopefully I will see y'all in 2 weeks. Bye.